now I'm doing, like, this is actually one of them. Before I do the important thing, which was roast, I need to do these 3 things, which is communicate about what we're doing, Self-Reliance Festival or whatever. And I got them done. And I woke up at 3:30 this morning, couldn't sleep. So I actually got a lot of stuff done before I went out to roast at 8 o'clock because I was just awake. I also had a data situation happen where I am manually going through item by item all transactions for a whole year in preparation for my taxes after spending a lot of time putting them into a bookkeeping system. So, hone does not feel all that wonderful to me right now. Like I don't think I've managed to really nail it yet. And that's something when you work on the word of the year that I find is often the case. Like you end up doing the opposite while you get better at it. So that's just how it's been. But I really wanted to do a community feature today, and Carrie from Strong Roots Resources just happened to be lurking in his home office. So, Carrie, what's up?
Hey, good afternoon. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. And guys, if you want to hop on, just email me. I'll send you a link. I'll keep looking at my email from time to time. In fact, I could maybe make my email pop out on my other screen. That would be the smart thing. Okay. So, what is your word of the year?
Oh gosh, I had one. That's a good
How's that
question.
going on month 3? You can't remember the word.
Um, it was uh, it was more of a concept, and it was oh yes, it was abundance. That's right. I kind of go for a bit of a phrase or a
Yeah.
concept, and so I was thinking about both, material and spiritual and emotional abundance and expression. Those were kind of what jumped out to me at the first of the year as things worth focusing on.
Yeah. And what have you done so far on that along that lines? Like how is that going?
It's going well. It's really plugging along a little bit fast, actually. The business is doing great. I have added about three new consultation clients just in February. The foraging classes I've started doing out at the farm have been well attended, and I continue to have increased interest in that. And Angel and I have been pushing forward on the kind of coming up with the hard numbers and the focus for the education center that we are probably a couple of years away from officially having built on site.
Yeah. And what are you going to do with that education center?
So we wanted a physical building that would house both a book library and a tool library, and also be able to accommodate small classes, kind of like an outdoor learning center. We're still working on the name. We've been batting around stuff back and forth quite a bit, so we're kind of waiting on that right name to come along to us. And so it will be a location where people can, whether they rent the building to hold classes that are relevant to simple living, off grid living, homesteading, rewilding, any of those concepts that are kind of my wheelhouse. And we're going to kind of extend the reach as we go for scout troops, homeschoolers, things like that. I wanted we don't really have anything like this in our area that is, especially not on this end of town, that is kind of focused on those groups.
Mhm.
So that's good.
No, I was going to say, so the critical question I have to ask, which is not me poo-pooing your idea, but it's the critical question that I wonder for everybody who's building an event center right now is, do you worry that the market's getting saturated?
I suppose it's possible. We're going to, for one thing, we're going to keep this. We're not going into debt for it, so it will be a thing that is crowdfunded and all. Um, I and in my case, it's not going to hurt me at all to have an additional building that's basically going to be the size of a little bit bigger than the workshop we have right now. It's going to be 14 by 40. So I can't see how it's going to ever hurt having it. And while it may be, I don't know if we're going to get saturated, because I keep running into more and more people who are wanting to do this stuff. We have 3 or 4 every time we have our gathering, people who are like, oh, you mean I don't have to be completely tied into consumer culture for the rest of my life? I can actually learn how to do things, and I can hang out with people who will teach me how to do these things. So it's a risk I'm willing to take.
Yeah, that's just something I wonder, because I've noticed this year, like a 10x on festivals, which is crazy. And then I think, who was it? Was it Mother Earth News stopped doing? Didn't they stop doing theirs completely?
Yeah, they stopped last year.
And then a lot of event centers going up, and then I go to events and there's butts and seats. So I'm like, that's interesting. But it's just it's like the spirit of the time is figure out how to grow your food, figure out how to create your own power if you can, figure out wild edible plants. Like that's been your niche it's been really fun watching that niche grow for you.
Yeah.
Because you kind of started out, like you started out maintaining people's lawns in town with battery operated stuff, and then bringing sort of a permaculture perspective to what they were doing landscaping wise. And now you're showing people like where the wild lettuce is and whatnot. So it's funny how when you start following a path, like it goes in meanders. Like talk about that a little bit. Did you ever think you would be doing, like when you, like 2020 Carey loses his job, right? Because of shutdowns, and out of the need to generate income, says, what do I got around me? Okay, I'm doing this now. Like, did that dude ever think you'd be where you are now?
No, and I'm not one of these who actually looks too far ahead in the future. I go a little bit by the seat of my pants anyhow, and I operate quite a bit off of instinct and intuition. And it's just like the opportunities kept coming to me. I would have a customer who would be like, well, thank you for mowing the yard. Thank you for always showing up when you say you're going to show up. What else do you do? And then it just snowballs. And as long as I kept putting forth a little bit of effort and good communication, the opportunities just kept coming. And then, yeah, when I discovered that one of my favorite things, which is wandering around outside trying to figure out what stuff is, was something that could be considered a service and a way of educating people. I mean, that's probably going to be one of my primary focuses going forward, just because I enjoy it. Other people seem to appreciate it. So why not? No. And I didn't really see it coming. Like I said, I just kind of roll with it.
Yeah. And yet here you are. Speaking of somebody wandering into a podcast, it's Janet. Janet, tell folks who you are.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I am Janet Szabo. I'm out here in Kalispell, Montana.
And what tell us about your podcast? Like, how'd you end up starting a podcast after all these years?
Oh, this is a funny story. So, and it's gonna sound strange, and there's gonna be a plot twist. So we raise pigs and chickens out here, and last year we were raising 8 pigs, and we were taking them to the processor, but we only have processors. They're few and far between here. So we were taking them to a processor that was 80 miles away. And we loaded 8 pigs into the trailer and drove down to the processor, only to discover that the processor wasn't there. They had gone away for the weekend. And I didn't know that. So and it was very hot because it was August, and pigs do not do well in hot weather. And we drove the pigs 80 miles back, and one of them died along the way. So we were down to 7 pigs when we got back. And I went into town that afternoon, and I was listening to your episode on failing homesteaders of the internet. And I thought, well, we're failing homesteaders. We're not on the internet, but we're failing homesteaders. But it was an inspirational episode. And as I'm pulling into the Walmart parking lot, I'm thinking, I really need to do something. And this little voice in my head said, you need to start a podcast. So I sat with the idea for a couple of weeks, and I knew I didn't want to start a homesteading podcast because I think there's enough of them out there, and yours is one of the better ones. So I decided to start a sewing podcast. So that is what I am doing. I am up to episode 24. It has done really well. Carrie has been on it. He has been one of my guests. So thank you for the inspiration, and thanks to Carrie for being so willing to be one of my first victims.
Yeah. Well, it was fun to watch that happen. Hey, look at this.
Yay! Oh, that's lovely.
Do you know what this is?
It's a hat made from the yarn I spun at SRF.
Yeah, we're going to give it away at the opportunity drawing at us.
That is phenomenal.
But yeah, I was like, well, there it is.
I did leave it there for you to knit up. So
you know, I didn't knit this, right?
Did
Like,
Mama
you
Sauce
can tell
knit
by
it?
the quality that I did not knit this. Mama Sauce did.
Well, thank her.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
You did. I can't remember if you plied the yarn or not. Did you?
I think I did. Yeah,
Yeah,
I usually do.
So yeah, I balled it for her and sent it to her. So, and she sent me a purse made out of the first thing I ever plied too, that like a little change purse, and it's a little rough. The yarn is inconsistent. We'll just put it that way.
That's novelty yarn.
It's novelty yarn. That's a great word for it. It's all about how you position yourself, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So what have you, I'm going to go to Carrie first and then to you, Janet. What have you learned since going down your new path about getting people interested, doing outreach, like that sort of thing? Like, how did you go from, like, Carrie, how did you go from, I kind of like showing people plants to, you know what, I'm going to start doing a class every month or two and get people out here equipped to do it. And then how did you find the people?
I just went with the usual, Facebook forums. I did build a mailing list fairly early on and continue, anybody who interacts with me that gives permission, they will wind up on the mailing list. And that right there is pretty powerful. I know plenty of people who are into internet marketing. That's one of the first things. And it's, I wish I hadn't fought it for that first year. It might have made a difference, but certainly put forth some value first. Nobody really likes a straight up sales pitch. So I usually lead with conversation about, hey, did you know that this is one of our early spring greens is henbit and this is what it's good for, or something of the sort. And I just, most of my outreach has been very organic, and most people who do wind up on the mailing list have at least met me in person, or they have contacted me through email wanting to know more because they saw a post or they saw a YouTube video. And I have gotten more consistent about getting some short form content up on YouTube and, broadcasted across the various major social networking forums.
Awesome. And Janet, how did you get people to hear about your podcast? Like, how did you find listeners?
I have had a blog for probably 15 years, even though everyone said blogging was dead. I love to write. So I already had an audience in my blog, and it sort of spread word of mouth. You mentioned it in one of your newsletters. So it's mostly been word of mouth. I don't have a newsletter yet. That's one of the things that I probably ought to work on. But there are only so many hours in a day, as you know.
Yeah, that's my lesson so far this year is I can only do so many things. And, there's a point where diminishing returns happen when you keep like rhinocerosing forward during a day. And that's hard for me because I'm a pretty good rhinoceros, actually. but the rhinoceros is tired right now.
I bet. I'm struggling with people in my life, not my husband's very good about this, but other people in my life tend to assume that because I don't have a job in town outside the house, that I'm at their beck and call. and available to do anything at any time. So I just got back from a 10-day teaching trip. I was in Seattle, and I think some people thought I was on vacation. So, and I
Teaching
was
is
like,
not vacation. Just
it was not vacation. I was working.
yeah.
So yeah, that's frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah, that's when you start working from a home office, especially if there are people around you, that can be a big thing. When I first started working from here full time, there were neighbors who would stop by at like 1 o'clock on a Wednesday and say, "Hey, you want to go kayaking?" And I'm like, "Yeah, if we had arranged it 2 weeks in advance and I had shifted my schedule around, I totally could have gone kayaking today." But now I have phone calls and other things scheduled and it's not happening. Or, now it would be coffee to roast or whatever it is. It's funny how, like, even though I work for myself, it's not like I I have not structured my days to where I can just blow everything off most of the time. Like, even today, like, we had somebody fell through, but I've already told everybody we're going to be doing a show today at 2. So we're doing a show today at 2 because it's on the schedule. Did that happen to you, Carrie?
To an extent, I went from knowing well in advance what my schedule was going to be, whether it was on the ambulance or doing other jobs. And it's been strange to try to adjust. That's probably where I've struggled the most. Early on, I actually would pack way too much stuff into a day. Like, in terms of scheduling jobs, I would be convinced that I could do, 16 hours of work in 8 hours or that sort of thing. It's gotten better, but I just kind of keep a daily list of, this is the stuff that absolutely has to happen. And I, like, for instance, because I do like to be a little more freeform now, I'm kind of not, I don't like too much rigidity anymore, but I also made myself commit to doing the Friday Night Live video every Friday. It happens. Like, that's the thing, that unless I'm like just traveling and I can't make it happen, but otherwise that's just, that's what I have to do, which means I have to have my notes ready and kind of be focused and have all my stuff set up. So it's definitely an adjustment period for that. I'm kind of well into 4 years in at this point. So for the most part, I feel like I have kind of a nice little groove to follow.
Yes. It's funny how you can make lives happen on the road too, when you gotta. Like, I've done a lot of those. Have you seen, how's your attendance been on those?
We usually have 6 to 8 people in the chat at the time. I haven't really looked at the metrics otherwise, like what's being viewed after it's been published, but we always have good conversation. We kind of have folks that have migrated over from Lots Project and Toolman Tim and LFTN and a few others, and then just some people that I've just met out and about. They tune in, so it's always fun. We always enjoy it.
So, Janet, have you played with the live stream stuff yet?
No.
Are you more like, I'm going to do the audio podcast? Do you produce video? I haven't actually looked. Do you produce video for your podcast too, or is it all audio?
I don't. I do have a YouTube channel, but it's audio only.
Yeah.
You can, my messy office, it's like I'd have to set up something, nice, like your office, your little studio there.
It only took me 7 years to get here.
Yeah, well.
Like, you can look at my backgrounds throughout the ages. It's always like there's a wall behind me because what's in front of me is a total chaos.
Maybe I should turn around.
To me, your background just looks like an office. It doesn't look like a messy office to me.
Oh, it's messy.
Oh, well, you can't see it. Can you see it, Carrie?
I see bookshelves, which always makes me happy. So
yeah.
I'm in a woodworking shop right now. So there's just other things that get prioritized ahead of the background.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I may do video at some point. The other thing is I don't want to have to put on makeup.
Yeah.
Me either.
You don't have to.
No, but you either, Carrie.
No, don't bother with it.
Although I got my eyes on today.
Yeah.
You can tell because I got glasses on. I had to relearn how to put eyeliner on as a result of live streaming.
Yeah.
And it had been maybe 30 years since I put eyeliner
Yeah.
on. It's kind of a long time. But at the same time, like, you won't see me clown up because that's just not me.
Right.
And I don't mean that derogatorily for people who wear a lot of makeup, but when I wear a lot of makeup, I feel like a clown, which is why I call it clowning up. It doesn't actually look like a clown on most other people. Some people get pretty vibrant with their
Yeah.
choices, and then that looks a little clownish to me. But
Yeah.
and clowns look like clowns.
Right.
Yeah. So that is where it is. Well, guys, in the live stream, if you got questions, throw them out, or else I'm just going to keep going down this road with Janet and Carrie, who have both. I mean, Janet spent her life building her lifestyle business, and she also helps her husband with the things he doesn't like to do in his business. I need a Janet here. Like, I'm literally like, the bookkeeping is the problem.
Yeah. He always says that he would be stuffing money under mattresses if he didn't have me around. So,
yeah. Pippin Eyes wants to know if dirt and grease smudges count as makeup. Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Yep. So, okay. So, Carrie, I'm going to ask you both this. Do you both script your shows pretty carefully, or do you just sort of wing it? Like, what's your approach to doing content? We'll go to Carrie and then Janet.
Oh gosh, I mostly wing it. I will have some notes written down for the Friday Night Live. Like, I like to talk about what we got into that week, anything new, funny stories, anecdotes, things like that. I just wrapped up about a 7-minute long video on a creek bank repair project that I helped out with a couple of weeks ago. And I mean, I had a little bit in my head, but mostly I just went out there and filmed it and just talked about what we did. It probably depends on if I'm dealing with a really concrete topic where it's, in EMS, we call it like see one, do one, teach one kind of way of conveying information. Then it's easy. I just go for it. If I want to get into, feelings and concepts and things like that, I'll take more notes, or else my brain may wander.
Makes sense. How about you, Janet?
I scripted my first couple of episodes, and then I decided that I do bullet outlines now of things that I want to hit, but it's mostly off the cuff.
Yeah. I think a lot of podcasters kind of go through that. We write every word we're going to say. We read it. We sound like we're reading it when we do that. You can go back to my early podcasts and hear me reading my notes if you want. And then you sort of become more free with it over time. But I think it's almost like you need to go through the scripting it phase to get to the point where you are comfortable. Right?
Yeah.
And, there's something hard about being yourself in front of like this thing, right? This is what I'm seeing. Like, when I just did the audio podcast before I figured out I could video too, I sat in a room by myself talking at this silver metal thing, trying to sound like I was talking to a person. And that took some time to figure out. Like, what strategies do you guys use? Any strategies to get that done?
In my case, I just keep doing it. I figure repetition and practice, like anything else, is going to be what gets me there, and gets me to be more engaging and to be, God, I hate to say authentic, but I would hope that when folks converse with me through a live stream and then when they meet me in person, I hope they feel like they're talking to the same exact guy, because other than probably minding my actual language on a live stream and being mindful not to drop certain terminology, because I am trying to keep,
certain terminology. That's one way to say it.
So, but other than that, I'd like to think that I'm pretty much, one and the same.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Here's a question for you, Janet. Where would you like comments for your podcast? Janet wants you to give her a review at iTunes right now, is what she really wants. We all want that.
I keep saying that.
iTunes reviews are huge in helping to bring up your podcast. In fact, I should do a drive about that too. But if you want, and what's the name of your podcast, Janet? So everybody listening to this can go check it out and give you an iTunes review.
My podcast is called The Straight Stitch a podcast about sewing and other fiber arts.
Yep. So first of all, a review, but then do you prefer comments on your website or on social or where?
I will take them anywhere.
Yeah. Have you figured out the fountain thing yet?
I have not.
Okay.
Social media. Oh my gosh. I feel like such a dinosaur.
Yeah, fountain.fm. Once you figure it out, which it takes a little bit to figure out for an audio podcast, is great because they pull from the iTunes stream. So like you don't have to do anything crazy other than claim your podcast there.
Okay.
I assume you're, like, so people can then use Satoshis to send you a comment, like can tip you and they can give you a comment with that tip. And so I find myself having conversations back and forth on fountain.fm,
awesome.
and which is great for me because I can tell by the episode what resonated, right? And we can have a conversation about that. And so I love using that tool. As a consumer of podcasts, Fountain FM's interface, it's a developing app, so it's not going to have all the functionality that other ones do, but it is all based on the idea of, well, like that sort of underlying value for value exchange and using the Lightning Network to give people tiny tips. Because like, I think it's, what is it, like 1,800 Satoshis is $1 right now or something. Yeah. It was 5,000 Satoshis when I first got on Fountain FM, and people are like, here's 10 Satoshis. I'm like, thank you. Just shave off that penny right there.
I'll check it out.
Yeah. So, there are all sorts of content creator groups there. Okay, here's one. Do any of you use AI in your business or plan to?
Not really. I did consult with a gentleman last summer who was, and he was very forthright about this. He was like, I am incredibly ADD. And so I'm going to need a lot of help prioritizing what to do and when and why the order is important. So I got into Chat GPT, and all I asked it was, as a consultant, how can I best communicate with somebody who has ADD or ADHD? And it gave me, pretty nice list of bullet points, and the bulk of it was common sense, but it gave me something to kind of build his priority list off of. And I even copied that. I copied exactly what it sent me, gave credit to Chat GPT, and put it in his email so he could see it. Like, hey, I use this to help, because my brain doesn't really work that way, or at least not as severely as his does. So I was like, here's part of the toolbox that I'm going to use just for the sake of communication. Other than that, I just haven't messed with it a whole lot. I know it is probably a useful tool as I scale things up, but I just don't think I'm quite there yet.
How about you, Janet?
I have not tried it yet, but it's on the list.
It's on the list. Well, anybody who follows any of my shorts knows that I use AI to create shorts. And the tool I use is called Opus Pro. I actually have an affiliate link. You can free trial it and take any of your longer form content, and it cuts it up, and it has some editing options. That doesn't mean I don't spend time editing. Actually, right now I spend Letty's time editing at the moment, but sometimes I jump in and edit. But that is how I'm able to do the prescribed 3 shorts in the morning and 3 in the afternoon. I also make shorts and use AI to bring the captions in. That's another thing, because I don't want to type, like, you record the video and then you have to go back and listen to your video and you type the words. Now I just bring it in that way. And I've actually messed with Chat GPT a lot. Like, I've prompted it to write things for me, and I've used it more. It's more like a research tool for me than straight up writing stuff, because I'll be like, hey, write this blurb about this using this voice and that, whatever. And it'll write something that's totally not what I would say. But sometimes there'll be a turn of phrase in there that I'm like, actually, that's a great idea. And then I'll expand from that. So I've had like mixed results with ChatGPT, but I have trained it to write emails. So
that's awesome.
The Self-Reliance Festival promotional emails a lot of those are probably 80% AI generated and then edited.
Wow.
What I have
Nice.
not found is that I can have a final product out of that particular tool. And then I've just now started messing with like AI generated graphics. Just for nothing I have put out that you have seen is an AI generated graphic, because what I find is the AI generated graphics, always the ones I get, look cartoony, and I'm not going for cartoony, but it's amazing what it can do. And knowing what I have access to, the people who actually have access to the cutting edge stuff, it makes me like, I don't think I can believe any video I actually see showing me a thing at this point. You know, if it's a news item, I'm here on the ground, you know, and there's protests in Portland and they're burning the Eastern Precinct police station, which did happen. I would still, even if I saw the video of that, feel compelled to figure out how to confirm it, because of how well how advanced things have gotten so quickly. And it's been interesting, like in just a year.
Do you?
Yeah, go ahead, Janet.
I was just going to ask Nicole, do you, I see your shorts everywhere. I see them on Twitter. I see them on Instagram. I see them on Facebook. I see them on MeWe. I see them everywhere. Do you find that they're doing what you want them to do?
I think I'm going to end up going into a phase of refinement on that, where we're at right now. And I'm actually going to show screens. We're scheduling, because both Letty and I schedule. So we're scheduling through, hold on, it's in here somewhere. Oh, it's that one. Okay, we're scheduling with a tool, Cool, and this is it. So what's cool is that I can go in here and look at the calendar and see what's scheduled. And then you'll notice that at 3 o'clock, there's this thing coming out to announce that I'm going to be live at 4 o'clock. And I asked her to do that. Usually, because my live stream schedule is a standard schedule, you'll see that things are not coming out while I'm live, because that messes with things. And we noticed that, like, when the ones that were scheduled in the middle of my live came out, they get like 5 views. But if they come out not when I'm live, we get more views. And we follow the analytics. We've been learning a lot from them, and some stuff does great, you know, and other stuff doesn't do great. So it just depends on, you know, and it goes by platform. So you can sort of see Instagram is growing, Twitter is growing. I'm not posting to LinkedIn. TikTok is going to be a little weird. So TikTok, I had to disconnect and reconnect. So we've only been tracking for 1 day. The statistics. But when I started this, my followers were around under 100, I think, and we're up to 600 followers. So what I'm getting, like, I would love to have thousands of followers on TikTok, but I don't. And then YouTube is where we do the best, right? It's, you know, it's been rising. My rate of gain has gone down this week, but I find this tool super helpful, and you can schedule straight from the Opus Pro window. But I'm managing 3 brands, right? I've managed mine, the Nicole Sauce brand, LFTN. I manage Holler Roast and Self Reliance Festival, and so having that Metricool tool, we can actually. There are 3 brands there. We have all the logos uploaded, and we can schedule to all the different social media. That's been a $40 a month huge time saver. Because for a while, when I was doing the 3 and 3, I was scheduling each one individually on each platform.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So does Metricool have a mobile app? Yes, it does. I think it has limited functionality on the mobile app. I have not. I mean, like, I've played with it a little bit. We just went through a week of things are not posting right, and it'll email you and say this failed, post it, and then I don't, because I'm like, whatever. Like, there's so many posts coming out that it does, you know, unless it's an important thing, like, hey, this show is happening. I don't necessarily go back and post it if it fails. But then we had to figure, like, TikTok completely broke. And it was actually Letty who figured out what they did is they've added a like Instagram, and Instagram has this for their live streams. It's actually why I'm not live on Instagram right now, because I didn't want to mess with it today. YouTube, when you post, it's like, what's your audience? Is it made for kids or not? Right. And you have to confirm that every single video. TikTok just added, do you want it public or private? And so we were failing because that was not turned on or off. And she had to go back into all of her, like all of the things that were scheduled and choose manually that. She's like, well, that was a pain in the neck. And I'm like, yeah. And now they're asking you to have AI generated content that hasn't been built into the, like, you have to say list yet, but I'm sure it will be. And then we're going to have to tag what's like an original video versus one of my AI generated ones. Because some people may not want to see those. That's where I think TikTok's going with that. But I'm kind of, Janet, getting to the point. In summary, I've been trying all of the platforms with this formula and adjusting it and adjusting times and then seeing where we do the best. And then I have to choose which of all of those platforms I'm actually making content for at some point. Like, I'm getting to that point. Tim said he's getting there too. And he's decided it's YouTube. I make a little bit of money on YouTube, but it's not even gas money. Like, it's hardly worth it. And I haven't seen a big bump in audio downloads from the YouTube traffic. So my biggest audience is on the audio. And I think I'm getting some audio from Instagram of all places and Facebook. So like the very tools I don't want to use.
Right.
Specifically don't love the metaverse are the ones that do best for me. And then the question is that because I've been there for so long and I have the biggest following there over the years, like not just on my LFTM page, but just Nicole does random things with her private page and all these people follow her because they've known her for years on Facebook. So but it is interesting to like run in and play with all of that. And Ken says, what did he say? What to do? Yeah, use AI for everything possible. And yes, you have to heavily edit it. Yeah. And then he says, have you heard of anything about Meta doing away with third-party integrations? No, but when it happens, it'll be what it is. Like, I can see why they do that. They did away with all integrations yesterday by turning themselves off for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what did you do to survive the great Facebook outage of 2024?
Well, I was out running an errand, so I didn't even really notice until I was at the post office to ship something to a customer and realized that the only place I had her address was in Facebook Messenger. And I also had her number, though, and I was just able to text her and get a hold of it and get everything sent. But I had a moment of, I probably have too much customer information tied up in this. I try to make sure I have at least, because a lot of people find me through Facebook, and so they send me a message through Messenger. And one of the first things I try to do is get their email and have, 2 ways of contacting them. I mean, would the business still survive if Facebook went away tomorrow? Yeah, it would just change. So it was a little perplexing, but at the time I was just juggling so many other tasks that it didn't hold my attention. And by the time I checked again later, everything had been straightened out.
Yeah. How about you, Janet? Did you even notice?
I did, because I was trying to respond to somebody who had messaged me in Facebook Messenger, and Facebook kicked me out, and then it kept telling me that I needed to change my password.
Yeah.
And I tried doing that a couple of times, and then I thought, well, something bigger is going on. And then I think I went over to X and saw that things had gone down, and I was like, okay, well, time to go do something else.
Yeah. So I noticed I was about to go live with Jack Spirko and John Willis, and I thought what had happened is I had gotten put in timeout.
Oh.
Because, sometimes I get put in timeout. Hasn't happened in a while. And I was like, maybe they killed me forever. And Jack's like, well, I'll log in and see if you're still there. Cause it won't let me log in. I'm like, that's what it's doing to me. And then I'm like, why isn't John on the stream yet? And I always send him like the link through Facebook Messenger. And I'm like, oh wait, if Facebook's down, John doesn't have the link. Even if he has the link, he does not have the link. So sure enough, I had an email in my inbox from Amanda saying John needs the link in email. Here's his email. I'm like, well, I know his email, but I just, don't use it very often. So it was pretty funny. That's an interesting thing. There is a good point brought up here, and that is there are some copyright issues when you use AI. So be aware of that, especially if you're generating images. It will pull from things that may not be cool to pull from. And then you can get in trouble for those. And then the other thing is text wise, like I'm pretty sure the way that it's generating text is based on text that it's analyzed that other people have written. So thinking about that, I think is pretty important too. What % of your sales are generated from traffic derived from shorts? I don't know if Janet or Carrie's product applies. Is generating affiliate payouts or actually bringing people? It's okay. So here's how this works, Jed. I am not converting my shorts to direct sales. Probably ever. Like the only ones that ever convert are when we're like, hey, buy your Self-Reliance Festival ticket because this is a really cool thing. Or I get to, like Angry American's going to be there. Check it out. And those are not AI generated. Those are made for the purpose. And usually the people who buy based on those are buying because they already knew. Like they had already basically decided to buy the ticket and they just keep forgetting to go to selfreliancefestival.com and buy a ticket. I haven't hit Hollow Roast as hard yet. That's actually going to be the next thing. And we'll see if that pumps up coffee sales from people who I don't already know. So what I have found is the shorts remind the people who already know stuff and who are already part of our community to buy things that they want to buy. So, other people who do so I've heard from people who do things like make soap and are putting like videos up of making soap, that those do generate new sales, particularly on Instagram and some people on TikTok. So there's a lot of us who share what works and what doesn't work with each other. And that's sort of, loosely around the Toolman Tim Lots project. Like we'll be like, hey, we tried this new thing and it was a total flop. Or what's working right now? Here's what I just learned. You can upload all of your podcasts to YouTube automatically now. And I don't know how to do it, but what I did today, because I'm preparing to do that. And you would think, Nicole, why don't you just do that? Because I had my podcast limited to the most recent 100 episodes on the feed so that like somebody finds LFTN and doesn't then download almost 1,000 episodes onto their phone and break their phone.
But then they can't find the squash episode.
It is like, that is true. I just have to replay that from time to time. And the squash episode was apparently the game-changing episode of my podcast. I should do a whole thing like that's what we'll do for the 1,000 celebration. Be like, the episode that changed the future of LFTN, and have all the squash people come on and talk. Anyway, so I think so I just made it so all my episodes now are in the feed. So watch out, guys. That's all I'm saying. Watch out. And then I'm going to get those into YouTube, and I'll probably throttle it down again just because I feel like that's mean. But, there's probably a setting in your podcatcher that can tell you don't download all of Nicole Sauce's 1,000 episodes. It's not quite 1,000 yet. I think I have probably another year before I really hit that, I'm thinking.
Cool.
I'm at 875, so 125 episodes.
That's exciting, though.
It's about 30 more weeks. Yeah. It's 20. Yeah, I can't believe it. Ken, it's time for the next one. You probably can't see it unless I have the light on. That's my 500 episode present from Ken Ash and Carmel. Nice. Yeah. So, and he was like, we had him drill holes in the bottom of the 500 plaques so that we can do it for 1,000 episodes. I was like, I like how you think. Anyway.
Yeah,
Okay.
so this is the other reason I can't do video. The lights in my office randomly turn themselves off.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm sitting here in the dark now.
Oh, yeah. I got studio lights now, so I asked John what he used, and he sent me a link, and I just bought them. And I think I actually also asked Red Flyer at one point. So this is a chargeable like
Oh, nice.
bar light, and it has no cable, but it runs out of batteries every so often while I'm on live, and you can change the color. So I can be, I can be green, whatever. We'll be green now. But I watched like 15 YouTube videos to figure this out, like how to do the lighting here, and there's still some refinement. So Red Flyer Media says, I'm now using shorts to get more views on my channels. It's really boosted views overall. Actually, and they also filter into your long form live streams, apparently, once you get over a certain thing. And she can help you with that. Rebecca is the lady. This is the lady that does the SRF video stuff. Like she's really good for recommendations.
Okay.
Yeah. So okay, we're coming up on an hour, guys. Let's go once around the horn. I don't see any other any unanswered questions. So Janet, tell people how to connect with you. And
So
whatever.
my website is janetzabo.com, and from there you can go to my knitting website, which is bigskyknittingdesigns.com, and you can go to the podcast, which is thestraightstitchpodcast.com.
thestraightstitchpodcast.com. Guys, go give her a review on iTunes, please. Okay. Carrie, what do you got?
Yep. Strongrootsresources.com, and everything on all the social media is Strong Roots Resources. If you're not busy at 6:30 Eastern on Friday nights, hop on. We'll be doing a live stream talking about whatever we all feel like talking about. And look forward to seeing folks at a number of events this year. I'm going to be at least 4 and maybe more.
That rhymes. It's like you should write a song about that.
Probably should.
You probably should. So he's going to be doing a class called The Wild Foods Around You on April 8th, which is a Monday. And this is under workshops at selfreliancefestival.com. Really think about seeing this, guys. Like those of you who are really into wild foods, this will be a really fun class.
What a great title.
Yeah, I love it.
Thank you.
I actually need a better graphic. This is on one of my I ran out of times things, so he just got the Self-Reliance Festival logo. Yeah, that's going to have an image by the end of the week. But yeah, there we go. So check that out. Okay, great. Well, thanks guys for being on. Everyone, if you like the show and want to support the work I'm doing here, consider getting your coffee at hollowroast.com and grab your Self-Reliance Festival tickets so I can meet you in person. Because if I haven't met you in person, that's not cool. We got to meet April 6th and 7th, Camden, Tennessee. Make it a great week.
See you guys.